Welcome to another episode of the Outdoor Gibbon podcast. It's February, not long now until show season starts. I think this episode will just be out just before the British Shooting show down at Birmingham in the NEC. Following that, we've then got the Stalking show. Hopefully we'll see a lot of you there. Well, that's it, the end of the game season. All the birds are now safe. They can wander about and do what they want. But it won't be long before those game fields, those rearing fields, are starting to pick up eggs and the preparations begin for the next year. I know I've already had the call, can I come and service the incubators and get everything ready just to make sure that I think the first eggs will be set sometime around about end of March. So you finish one, you finish shooting them, and then you start bringing them back on again. The Scottish hind season is drawing to a close. I think there's about 4 days left before the official close of that. I know some estates will still be working on their licenses to shoot a few hinds after that, just to make up the numbers. Anybody that's in one of those Section 7s. And the roebuck season is not far away. Been looking promising, looking at some of the trail cameras that are out. And I was out with the thermal the other night, and there are some really nice looking bucks already. You can't tell what they're going to look like completely, but you can tell that their heads are looking fairly well on. The velvet's there, glowing really well in the thermal image. So it should be hopefully an interesting season. We're still knocking over the does at the moment, obviously working away through the replant sites and trying to keep on top of stuff. It's funny when you look in the press today, there was a release. We had the lynxes released up here in the Cairngorm National Park a few weeks ago, and now we've had a load of feral pigs, or just domesticated pigs, dumped out. Stealth rewilding, it seems to be. Wonder what will be next. But it's just crazy really that this is seeming to happen in this day and age. In some other news, some of you will have probably already seen it, and those that haven't, please go and have a look. We had Alex Hunter-Gatherer Cooking come up just after Christmas, around about early part of January, and we took him out on the hill to shoot his hind with his own rifle this time, not using mine. He's made a couple of great films. Obviously, we've got one of those films, which is his hind stalking. Then we did some clearfell and some forestry around where I live in Aberdeenshire. And finally, we took the old Series Land Rover out with one of his fire grills, and we set it up in the snow, and we actually cooked. I skinned down basically a deer on the back of the Land Rover, and then we cooked off one of those venison loins on an open fire in -7 conditions. And what a cracking film coming up, so enjoy that. He also did his PDS1 assessment, so if you are interested in learning more about the PDS1 course and seeing how the assessment works, have a look at that. It was very interesting for Alex to go through it, and actually it all to be filmed, so hopefully it may answer a few questions. We've also just been working with the Shooting and Hunting Academy, and we have created the Highland Deer Stalker module. It's a module for anybody that is new to stalking, maybe European coming to the Scottish Highlands for the first time. It's basically a bit of a guide, a few questions in it as well, as to what you're going to require to come stalking in the Scottish Highlands. Hopefully it'll be very interesting. There's a great trailer and film out about that as well, so go and have a look at that. And the final part we're offering is, if you are thinking of doing your PDS1, use the link you'll find in this podcast. We can put it up on social media as well. And if you tell me that you've registered with that link, you will get your PDS1 shooting assessment free of charge. You will have to come up to Scotland, obviously, to do it. So who do we have on the podcast? We have Claus and Freya. They are Danish hunters who've moved to Italy. We look at both the Danish and the Italian hunting and firearms law. Certainly very interesting. I do apologise, just at the beginning of this podcast, their dog wouldn't settle. It really wanted to be part of the action. So there's a few times that the Freya stops and goes off and eventually brings a dog into the picture. Hopefully this won't spoil your listening enjoyment. Anyway, let's get a quick word from our sponsor and then we'll get started with the recording. The Outdoor Gibbon podcast is proudly sponsored by the Shooting and Hunting Academy, an online training platform and UK registered learning provider that provides a host of accredited and nationally available courses and masterclasses delivered by leading industry experts. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Outdoor Gibbon podcast. Tonight I am joined by a couple who hunt together, Claus and Freya, who are Danish hunters, but they now reside in Italy. Hello, how you doing?
We're doing nice.
We are. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, fantastic. What's the weather like over in Italy at the moment?
Actually, it's quite cold. It's 11 degrees, about 12 degrees Fahrenheit now. Centigrades now. Cold is a relative term. I'm sitting here.
Scottish summer, really, then, isn't it? Yeah, that's warm for me.
Yeah.
We have a cold wind, but apart from that, we usually have blue skies the last couple of days. Sometimes we have a day with rain, but other than that, it's usually warmer than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Is that one of the reasons why there was a move from obviously from Denmark down to Italy for hunting?
Well, it was one of the reasons that we like the hot weather.
Okay.
Really hot. So it was one of the reasons that I took a job position down here. So yeah.
So let's go to my usual question for anybody I get on the show that's obviously into their hunting and things like that is how did it all start for you? Is it sort of a family tradition from a background, or are you new to hunting? Have you come in from a different angle? Whichever one of you wants to start.
Well,
that's just a dog in the background.
No worries.
none of us has relatives.
So we've got a dog just behind them that's obviously just making the bed comfortable, but we're all good now.
We don't have any relatives that hunt either.
No.
Not in your family and not in my family. So we're just the first ones in our families who hunt.
Okay.
And so it wasn't a given for any of us, but we are both outdoor people. And I think it was during our many summers in Arizona, USA, that when we were out.
We may well do a bit of editing here to quieten the dog down. Obviously, wants to be involved in this podcast. We now have a dog in the picture as well.
So we have been in Arizona for every summer for 12, 13 years
Yeah.
Okay.
in a row, and we're usually just in the outdoors, living off the grid and sitting by the bonfire and just having a good time, doing a lot of
various outdoor skills.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
And a couple of friends over there, they hunt. So it was like the transition from bringing food out in the wilderness to start hunting ourselves over there. The transition was really short.
Right. Okay.
It made sense.
Yes.
It just made so much sense.
Yeah. And we hooked onto it right away.
Yeah.
It was
But
like
a very different way of hunting, obviously, being out in Arizona compared to Europe and the rest of the world in many ways.
Yeah, well, at that point it was only rabbits. It was only
small critters.
Yeah, small critters, and it was just because it made sense. So we just decided that when we got home to back to Denmark, we would start our hunting license as soon as we could.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you actually did your hunting licenses in Denmark, even though that you'd been hunting in Arizona and things like that.
Yeah, because the rules in Arizona are, well, a little bit more lax. So it's like you buy your hunting license over there.
Yes.
Local license, so you can go hunt the small critters.
Small critters. Yeah.
And you don't need a what shall we say, comprehensive education like you do in Denmark.
Yes.
For hunting, so it's much more easy to hunt over there. especially for the smaller animals.
So the hunting license in Denmark, though, is quite a vigorous. It's probably not the hardest, but it is still quite a vigorous task to actually achieve your hunting license.
Yes, it is. It consists of course a lot of education, reading, and learning a lot of things by heart, because there's a lot of questions that you have to answer. And what was it? 3 questions, 3 or 5 questions you could have, like you can have an error in. And then there's some practical tests also, how to handle weapons, and also how shoot or not shoot situations, especially with the shotgun. So yeah, it is quite rigorous in Denmark, and for a good reason. I think it's good that you get a good foundation before you start hunting, because it can be dangerous.
No, absolutely. But I think Denmark's got quite restrictive hunting anyway, in terms of there's different seasons for the males, but then there's different seasons for the type of trophy you can have and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and different areas also, with different timing zones. So there's a lot of rules that you have to be aware of when you hunt. And the weapons regulations in Denmark are really strict.
Right. Okay. So does that make it? Is that stricter than other places, like, for example, Sweden, Germany, the UK?
I'm not sure, but if we can compare it to Italy, because we have weapons license also. So it's in Denmark, you have to be a hunter before you can get. Well, if you want hunting weapons, you have to be a hunter and take the hunting course.
Yes.
Before you can buy hunting weapons. And then you go down into the store and pick out your hunting weapon, and then you have to apply for the license with the police.
Okay.
And depending on how lucky you are, it can take up to a month. If you're really unlucky, it could take 3-4 months.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Down here in Italy is a little bit different. Here you have to do a lot of what you would say tests. So you do a drug test and a alcohol test. You talk to a
psychiatrist. Not even a psychiatrist.
Not
even a. What's treatment? Psychiatrist.
Yeah, and then you have a couple of medical tests. Then you do a small course on a shooting range, so showing weapons handling and so on. Then you get your Porta dell'Armi, and then you can just down into a store, say I want this weapon. 10 minutes later, you got it.
Right. Okay.
So it's really it's hard. Well, maybe not hard, but it's a little bit more difficult to get the license down here. But it's really easy to buy the weapon compared to Denmark, where it is somewhat hard to get the license because you have to take the hunter's exam. But then it can be really hard to get the weapon also.
Isn't it funny how every different part of the world, and obviously with this series of podcasts, I've been talking to different people from different places, be it from Sweden to Poland, and everybody has a slightly different story of how it comes through. Yeah. And then you'd think that countries that you'd be more regulated. So when we're talking about Germany, you've done your hunting exam, which is quite difficult, but once you've done that, you're free to basically have up to 10 guns if you really want to. It's absolutely crazy. And then the UK, there's no hunting license required. However, it's a very stringent process of dealing with the police to be able to get a firearm, but you're only allowed to get the specific firearm that you have actually applied for. So you apply for your .308 caliber rifle, that's what you get. And it's just strange to see how everybody in different parts of the world go through these processes. And I know that there's a lot of listeners that will be from the UK that think we've got it tough, but actually they hopefully listening to this, they'll realize that everybody has something different to have to achieve to be able to get that license to shoot something.
Well, let's say we spent about 2.5 years to get the weapons license down here in Italy.
Wow. Okay. That's
because I'm a soldier, so I follow the rules.
Yeah.
And if they say no, it's not here, you have to do it in this way, then I try to do it that way. So we actually did it twice. The first time we failed totally. We spent like 2 years doing that. Second time took us less than a half year. Actually, took us less than 2 months. Then we had the license, because now we were like, we will not take no for an answer, and we will.
Yeah.
So because now we knew the local customs, how to do stuff and so on. So it was so easy the second time.
I suppose once you've been settled into the area and you actually know people, there'll be people that can explain and tell you how things happen, which does obviously give you a little bit of an insider's knowledge.
Yes, exactly.
So the other thing that obviously comes across is you're a hunting couple. Does this? It's always one of those things that when you go out hunting and things like that, if there's suddenly, say, a trophy buck appears or something like that, is there an argument about who's going to take the shot? Okay, so it's a sort of a game of rock, paper, scissors, is it? No?
Well, it depends on where we are.
Okay.
So if it like in Denmark, if it's on Freya's hunting grounds, she has the pick.
Okay.
It's on my hunting grounds, I have the pick. If we're out, like together on a shared hunt, it's like
it's usually okay. You got the last one, so this one is mine.
Yeah.
Or okay, if you really want to shoot, then we can negotiate that. But
so there is some sort of you do have negotiations over who's doing the hunt.
You can say there is it's not a pecking order, but there is like we have like our own system, but it's like when we're out hunting together. For me now, it's more like I like to see the joy in Freya's face when she kills an animal.
Okay.
So I really like that. And that was the same when we were in South Africa, just seeing her out there, being like she was totally embedded in everything and wearing down our pH and everything, I really like to see that. So for me, that's really fun and satisfying to see.
But that's really good that you obviously have a great passion that you've developed and that you're able to share it, because a lot of people, it's very much that one part of the relationship will do the hunting and the other isn't, maybe not so involved. But and I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but obviously you can go out and enjoy what you do together and actually sit back and have a glass of wine at the end of the day and talk about it.
It's also because when we're out there together, we can even be sitting out there. If we're just sitting waiting for animals to come forward, we can just sit there, and at the end of the day we can share our stories of seeing something different. Because we always see the same things. And that's just great.
Fantastic.
And I think also by both of us being hunters, if we are having a discussion, it's the perfect place to have a discussion, because
you need to be quiet.
So perfect. And but kidding aside, but like buying gear, weapons, equipment, and so on, it is so easy because we both know the value of everything, and like we just took up long range shooting right now, and it was Freya who was shooting. I was her spotter, and right after the competition, she was looking at me and said, "Hey, why don't you buy a 338 Lapua Magnum?" Of course I'll do that.
Well, that's kind of very good. It's not like having to sneak them in and hide them in the safe because you don't want somebody to know. Or that classic, I saw it today, it came up again, where the girl goes into the gun shop. My husband bought these guns here and I just want to maybe get $200 or $300. And the guy behind the counter's like, yeah, that's a $1,200 pistol. And she's like, he's dead. She walks out. It's just like, what's in the gun safe is kind of, it's all secret. But no, it's got, at least you know exactly, oh yeah, we're going to go out and buy a 338 Lapua rifle and it's going to cost us this much. And you both get to use it. That's the joy of it as well.
And especially because we both have the passion both for weapons, shooting and hunting. So it's like, no matter what we buy, we can always share it.
So it's the same as championing. You're basically championing each other on to do it, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's explore. Obviously, you both had a passion. You just said you've been to South Africa. Tell me one of the best hunts you've been on then.
I think that's actually the one where you shot your oryx. Or maybe the kudu. No, probably the kudu in South Africa. That's maybe the best hunt I've been on ever. And it was not me shooting. I was just an observer.
So sometimes actually being there and being the observer and going through all the emotions that the person next to you is doing can be just as good as actually pulling the trigger.
Yes.
we were asked what we wanted to shoot when we got down there, and I said I really wanted to shoot a kudu, and they were like, we have an old buck here. We think that would be perfect. He's older, so he just walks by himself. He doesn't go with the other ones, and we were looking for him for 2 days,
Yes.
or we were stalking him for 2 days.
And like they said, he's special. And for us who have never seen a live kudu
At that point.
that point, so every time Freya saw a kudu, she was like, "Is it this guy? Is it this guy?" And I'm like, no. When you see him, you'll know it. And then at one point, they said, "I think he's nearby." And then Freya said, "It's him over there." And he was, you can see him in the background.
We're just looking at an absolutely magnificent specimen of a kudu on the back. Well, I'll try and get a photo of that for anybody that's looking, and we'll put it up on social media later.
Yeah. He was the span between the tips of the horns were like ginormous. So we stalked him for 2 days, and he was like, always when we were like, now it's only 200-300 meters, he went behind some brushes or something, and we started to get closer, and then suddenly he was 500 meters away. He was always eluding us.
That's why he was an old buck and had survived that long, because he knew how to move himself around the country. So just diving onto that, obviously hunting in South Africa, how does it differ for you compared to like hunting in Italy now and hunting back in Denmark?
I think the distances is the major thing. The distance and the open plains.
Okay.
I think the biggest difference from hunting.
Also the way that the animal reacts to us being out there, because I would say in Europe, you can see an animal in 100 meters, 200 meters, and it will still be there. And it will still but if an animal see you in where we were in South Africa, 500 meters, it would be gone.
It's got, it knows, hang on a minute, people, that means it's time to run, kind of thing. Yeah,
exactly.
And especially because it's so open in South Africa, there is, at least in the area we were in, it's really hard to hide, and the animals will see you before you see them.
Yes.
In Denmark, we do more like where we sit and just wait for the animal to come out. So it's us who is stationary and just waiting. In South Africa, it's like the other way around, because we are stalking around, walking and looking for them, and they're the ones standing still looking for us, and sees us before we see them. So of course, down there they have an advantage for sure.
Yeah.
But that's also the exciting thing.
Yeah. The issue for us here in Italy is that we do not have our hunting license here.
Okay.
It's a very long story, and I will not tire you out with it, but we got our weapons license, and we are not able to get our hunting license without a long, theoretically course in Italian, of course.
Okay.
I think it will not happen. So we are basically the only way we can go hunting here is if we get the invite from someone.
Yeah.
So
because the Danish hunting license can be used down here.
Okay. So it kind of, it's like opens your doors to allow you to go on somebody's land because technically you have a qualification.
Yes. And then we also need to borrow weapons down here. In theory, we could go back to Denmark, take our hunting rifles and bring them here for 3 months. But then we have to come back again because of the European rules. And also because the Danish rules are stricter than the European rules. So when we talked to the local police down there, they said, hey, no problem, just bring your weapons, we don't care. Because you already have your European weapons passport.
Yes, of course. Yep.
But the Danish rule says, no, you can take them out for 3 months and then you have to bring them back, or the country you're bringing them to have to contact the Danish police and say it is okay for this person to export their weapons and import them into the new country. And down here in Italy, they say, no, we don't need to do that because you have your passport. That's why you have the passport. Use it. So we were stuck in the middle of it was crazy. So we decided no, that's not going to be an option. So to be invited to hunt down here, and then borrow the weapons locally.
It's a real shame because obviously when the UK left with Brexit, that ruined it for travelling, because we had a European firearms pass, so we could take our firearms quite freely wherever. That doesn't happen now. So now it's apply for licenses to the country you're going to and have a sponsor and all the rest of it. But it sounds as though obviously Denmark works on the same principle as you're not going to do that. We're going to keep it fairly secure at the end of the day. But then, as you said, the firearms licensing law up there is a lot more stringent.
Yes, it is. So we had to figure out something else to do. Yeah. So we took up long range shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's other worse things to be doing than going out and throwing some lead over like a mile, isn't there? Really?
Yeah, it's about a mile.
And it's for us it's free training.
Yeah.
Because if you're hitting a target at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 or 1,000 meters or even 1,700 meters, it doesn't matter. Because if you can hit that, you can also hit an animal. So we're getting more and more confident, because now it's a still standing target, but it's still at a distance, and you still have to do all the calculations and everything, like you would do if you're hunting an animal.
It's one thing we have noticed, obviously, when we're out stalking on the hill, and we get a lot of European hunters come across. When we push you on distance, when we push certain guests on distance, they're used to shooting obviously from a tree stand or a stand, and it will be potentially driven, so no more than 150 meters tops. And as soon as you say you're gonna shoot maybe 200, 220, that's when it all kind of goes wrong, because the confidence is lost. But obviously you guys doing your long range shooting, if I took you to Scotland and said that animal over there is 300 meters away, dial in, boom, no issues, you've got the confidence. So that's really good.
Yeah.
And that was the same before we went to South Africa, because we were training in Denmark for the longer distances up to 600 meters. So we were pretty confident when we went down there.
So when two animals presented themselves at 350, we're like, hey, no problem. And we showed the hunting company that we could shoot out to 500 meters without any problems, and they were like, okay, we trust you, you can do it. There's no boundaries, and so whatever you want you can shoot, because we can see you can shoot those distances.
So what calibers, obviously going to Africa and things like that, what calibers were they putting you up using that down there?
That was 308.
We actually brought our own weapons down there, and we just brought our 2 308s.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting one. Obviously, a 308 pushing it out that far is it's almost going. It's dropping off power wise at sort of, I think 350 is where you're getting down to the point where it's pretty much getting to the point of being subsonic again, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Well, we used a bullet from Dynamic Research Technologies, the DR, which is a frangible bullet. It will explode inside the animal.
Right.
And the two professional hunters we had accompanying us, they didn't know about this, so they were like, the first times we shot an animal, there was no blood because everything's inside. So they were like, maybe we didn't hit, and we were like, yes, we hit, and it is laying within 50 meters because it will be stone dead. And after we shot a couple of animals, they were like, okay, we can actually see it works. But there is the bullet don't go through because it totally disintegrates inside the animal.
But we did test the bullet up to the 600 meters.
600 meters. Yeah. With the energy and so on. So we were sure that we could do it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's really good, because that's the biggest fear you have. You suddenly, especially if you're not going to get a blood trail or anything like that, if it does go wrong, at least you know that bullet's giving up 100% of its energy. So realistically, it's catastrophic damage. It's one of the reasons when I've been taking guests out recently, just for the roe deer, I changed over to a very almost a varmint round in some cases. Yes, you get more meat damage, but at least you've done that much destruction to the internal organs, the animal doesn't run on too far.
No. And I think that's one of the biggest fears that we have when we're hunting, if we just wound the animal and it's able to run away. And I had one in Denmark, the national forest. You're not allowed to. You can hunt, to the borders of the national forest.
Yep.
If you hit an animal and it enters the national forest, you're not allowed to go in and look for it.
Okay.
We have these dog handlers that will search for animals. So you have to call one of them, who will then contact the local forest owner or the owner of the national forest in that area, and then he's allowed to go in with his dog to find the animal. So I hit a roe deer that ran in the forest, and it was just at sunset, so it's getting dark really fast, and we couldn't find it. But we were like walking in there, and we could see the blood trail. So he was confident that I hit it, and I was also confident. I knew I hit it, and I knew I hit it good. But it was so frustrating because we were just walking back and forth, like 10, 15 meters inside the forest, just back and forth.
And it's in there.
We know it's in there.
Wounded.
And we were walking like parallel to the edge of the forest, and he was like, "There's something wrong here because it should run in. It should not just run parallel." So we were like. At one point he said, it's now getting so dark, and I don't know this area, so I'll come back in the morning and see if I can find the animal. And I said, hey, can I come with you, because I would like to see where I hit it, because that's important. So I knew I hit it good. Next morning we went out there, and less than 25 meters from where we stopped, there was the carcass of the roe deer. So he was looking at me. He was like, now I know. When we were walking in there, there was a wolf on the right, waiting for that, and the roe deer knew that, so it would not go further in. So when we left, there was we heard this loud scream, and we were like, "What was that?" So and we asked him, "Hey, did you hear that?" And he was like in his 80s, I think. He was really old, so he didn't hear anything. He was like, "No, I didn't hear anything." But that was when the roe deer got taken by the wolf. I'm totally 100% sure of that.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
It was only the carcass that was left. No, there was nothing, no meat, nothing at all. It was just bones.
Like 11, 12 hours later.
Yes.
It was gone.
So obviously that just says that was another topic I've spoken quite a lot about is obviously the wolf population. Yeah. Has that affected you on your hunting grounds in Denmark, or is?
Well, in the area that I was in, it affected it. Because we had a couple of wolves in that area. I'm not sure how much it affected it, but we could see there was a drop at one point in especially in the roe deer, but that could also be attributed to anything else, So there's just so many factors in this. But I
don't think we have, where we have been hunting, that we have had big issues with the wolf.
And I know that in Italy now there are wolves have been reintroduced. Are you seeing any of that around you? Because I've got friends that send me pictures and they're in the vineyard.
No, we're living on Sicily, so
there's
okay.
Yeah, so the largest animal we can hunt here is the wild boar. So we like liberties here on the island.
And the biggest, there's no wolves here. We see very few foxes, but not many.
No.
So, yeah.
But perfect, living on an island. So you've got wild boar. What else is on the island?
We got hares. We got
rabbits.
Rabbits.
Birds.
A lot of birds, yes.
The Outdoor Gibbon podcast is proudly sponsored by the Shooting and Hunting Academy. Through the Academy, shooters, hunters, and those involved in the use of firearms can gain an in-depth and unique level of training that enables them to shoot better, behave more effectively in the field, up their strike rates, as well as learning new skills. Crucially, those new to deer stalking, the Academy also offers the Proficient Deer Stalker Certificate Level 1, the PDS1, a deer management certificate that is nationally recognised and accredited both by LANTRA and UK Rural Skills. Visit the Shooting and Hunting Academy to find out more. Let's get back to the show.
So your long range shooting, I'm assuming that's on the island as well. You don't have to go to the mainland for that.
There's a couple of long range shooting ranges here. So the one we're training at, we can shoot up to 1,000 meters.
Right.
And where we did the competition, it's like 3.5 hours drive away from here. We can shoot out to 2 kilometers on that one.
Okay. Wow. So you're going to be able to just sit next trip to Africa. It's like we'll just sit on top of this hill and we'll just take it out in the plane over there.
Yeah. Well, now we'll keep we know our limits when we're hunting.
Yeah.
So
it's different.
Yeah. But we always try to challenge ourselves. But we always try to stay within the limits, because there's just so many factors when we're hunting, especially long range, that can go wrong. And me personally, I would not like to wound an animal that is gone afterwards.
No, and at that distance, you still need to get there, right? You still need to get there, and you still need to figure out where was the animal exactly. It's easier it can still be hard, but it's easier on 200 meters. On 100 meters, you know pretty much where it should be.
Yeah.
But if it's out on much further distances, it's totally different.
Well, it's not like you can leave somebody back on the hill. You stay here, I'll walk over there, and then you're trying to. Can you see where I was? Trying to shout over that distance. Am I anywhere near it? Go left, go right, because it just doesn't work. And even at 100 or 200 meters, you still be like, well, that tree looks familiar, but I'm not sure I was near that tree, was I?
And like also like even in Denmark, when we've been hunting roe deer, at one time Freya, she shot a buck, and it was like, hey, he's just over there. So we went over there, he was gone. We could not find, because the grass was so tall. Yes. So we had to go back to the position where we shot him, or where she shot him from, to find out. So so we have these handles, we call them, when we try to find him. So we were just walking in a straight line, and then suddenly we saw some drips of blood on the grass, and then we could locate him. So it was so
everything
hard.
Looks different when you get there.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Now, the other thing is, the next question is, you guys are one of the first couples to be taken up by the Prostaff team for Pulsar. Yeah. How did that happen, kind of thing? Because obviously it's a fairly vigorous application process.
Yeah. Well, I started a year before Freya.
Okay.
For Pulsar, and well, again, it's nice, because when she saw the thermals, she was like, hey, I want one of those. So that was really easy. So I said to her, like, next time, apply for it, and just tell about yourself and what you do, and who you are, and what we can do together. And she was accepted like right away.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad process.
No.
At all. So it just makes good sense, also because when we write very differently. Claus is very technical, and I'm very
emotional.
Well, from the adventurous point.
Yes.
Okay.
In what I see and what I experience.
Yeah.
So we write very differently.
So you give the story, you set the picture, the scene, you basically bring the person in so that they feel they're on the journey with you, rather than just sort of the whole technical bit, it's kind of like the podcast. At the end of the day, it's a similar idea. We take people on a journey, whereas we could do a very technical, lots of numbers, lots of figures.
Yeah. And we could see that when we started writing for the Danish hunting magazines, the editor of one of them, that was when Freya, she wrote an article about her first buck. He was like, that is like, I was there. He could feel the same feelings, and then he started remembering his first buck, because those feelings were the same. And Freya's really good at expressing those feelings. Compared to me, I'm like more like, hey, so yeah, I shot him. the bullet weight was this, and I used his powder, and so for me, it's still the same experience, but I just focus on other things.
Right. But I think that's what makes everybody different, isn't it? You have to have that so everybody has their own style of doing it. But to take people on a journey, or to give people technical information, and actually to convey that across, is really important in both cases.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and just being able to remember the small details. on both sides, both on the technical side, but also on the emotional side and the experience, what you saw, how you smelled, and your pulse, and the blood was banging in your ears and everything. All of those small things, because the time it takes to pull a trigger is like quarter of a second. But the thought process before, during, and after, even if it's just a couple of seconds, it feels so long.
And I bet both of you react differently. One, because obviously as a male, we get a very big hit of adrenaline and you get buck fever and the heart rate, the pulse rate goes. And probably Freya, you're quite calm, collected behind that trigger. You squeeze the trigger and then comes the emotional response.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It's really interesting to have that conversation because people don't believe it, but it is. It's male and females out hunting. It's something completely different. Normally, you need to get a guy to actually calm down. And that's why on the hill, we'll lie there for a good few minutes before we do anything. So I can listen to his heart rate and pulse rate and breath come back to a normal standard before he goes and squeezes the trigger. Because if you do it when it's all go, you end up missing or causing problems.
Especially when you get buck fever, it's crazy. The first time I got it, I was like, what is going on? I could not even hold my binoculars because I was shaking so much. I was like, what is this? And it came out of the blue. And it was not even the first day I shot. It was like, I don't know, it was after like a couple of years or something. And then suddenly one day it was just there. And it is such a strange feeling to have. You cannot control yourself, and it's like, so of course the buck had to walk away because I couldn't shoot it because I was shaking so much, and it was totally crazy.
Yeah.
And you're completely the opposite. There you go. Yeah.
Totally. I always get it afterwards. I am very emotional afterwards because then all my adrenaline comes out and yeah.
But it's an amazing thing to and it's so interesting guiding people and taking people out, having to deal with the different situations and guys that go, I don't get it. And you stand there and listen and you can hear their heart rate and their breathing change. And it's like, well, you don't get it, but obviously something's happening. And I said, taking a lady out to shoot has always been that thing. It's like you ask them to do something, they listen, they do exactly what they said, what they're told to do. Whereas the guy, I'm not sure. There'll be guys listening to this going, I don't do that. It's the macho thing, isn't it? I want you to shoot the deer there. I'll do it my own way, and it all goes wrong. It's just like, well, if you'd done it as I said, we'd be all right.
Yeah, and we can see that when we do the long range shooting, because Freya, she loves to shoot. I love to do all the calculations and tell her how to adjust the scope and everything, and she'll just do it and shoot, and she's so calm when she shoots.
Yes.
Compared to me, I would be like, I would have a pulse like a what do we say? Normally, she has the pulse of a sleeping blue whale. And I have the pulse of a hummingbird in heat, because my pulse will just race because it's so exciting, Freya,
it's that long range shot. You're about to squeeze the trigger and it's just going for it. Absolutely.
So for that, we're really a good. I think we're really a good team for the long range shooting, and also for hunting, because we see different things, we experience different things, and we can share them. We have the same passion for it.
Fantastic. So obviously, what does 2025 hold? Any exciting hunts coming up for you guys? Anything new? Obviously, are you going to push the boundaries on the long range shooting?
Hopefully, one of my mates from Pulsar, he's from UK, and he has a lot of hunting grounds.
Okay.
So I've been probing him. Hey, maybe I could come and visit you. And he's totally open. Yeah, just come and then you can shoot wherever you want. So it's. So at least I think maybe for both of us going to the UK to try to hunt there, that could be a really nice adventure to do that.
Any particular species you've got your eyes on in the UK?
I'll let Freya answer that.
Yeah, I would really like to shoot one of the Chinese water deers.
Oh, you want to shoot a teddy bear?
I do.
Yeah. It's on my list. Mine is booked in for February. Finally, after however many years, it's the number. It's the last one I need of the number 6, and I've managed to get something organised. But yes, something different about those, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's so many places I want to go. We had a plan of going to the US for pronghorn,
Yeah.
and that's still on the list. Maybe not in 25, but maybe 26.
Yeah. And I think for me next year I would really like to have a Sika.
Yeah.
Just and I would love it to be a really long and hard stalk. Like so.
It can be. Yeah.
Yeah, but so you have to work for it, like we did when we were in South Africa. Stalking the kudu for 2 days, and then be able to kill it afterwards. It was so satisfying that it was that specific animal we were going for the whole time. It's that feeling it's so amazing. And I think it's like you have to be a hunter to understand it.
Yes. Yeah.
That it's the same in Denmark when we do the selection of what animals we want to kill. It is that animal, and no matter which other comes out, I'm just waiting for that buck to come out because that's the one I want. The rest of them, yes, they're nice, and it might not even be the biggest one. It could also be the weakest one that I want because getting rid of the weakest link it's better than just killing the good ones the whole time. So just sitting there and waiting, and then finally it succeeds. It's that feeling is so amazing.
So just touching on that, we'll just go back. So because obviously Denmark, you have a specific selection process for taking animals out, don't you, on a different hunting ground? So you'll take a certain number of trophies, but you'll also take and only a certain number of trophies can be removed from the hunting ground.
Well, that depends. If it's privately owned, then there is no boundaries.
Okay.
And sometimes hunters are their own worst enemy because there's so much envy and hey, why did he shoot that? Now he shot 2 animals today. Why did he just settle with one? Well, because they taste good.
Yeah. And because if he did shoot 2 animals, he probably knows that it's not a problem.
Yeah.
In that area.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's for the privately owned areas there is no limits, and for of course where you have the paid hunts, of course there is a structure or a strategy about what animals should we shoot, what should we not shoot. So there is always a good number of animals and also big and strong animals in the area.
That's right. No, because I always thought there was a thing on roebuck and there was certain times of the year when the bucks are in, you could only shoot the medal heads, but other than that, you can still shoot the smaller ones and things like that. But maybe that was just somebody else describing it to me.
Yeah, well, there is for red deer, but that is more in if you are on private ground and you are on a paid hunt, and they would. At this point we only want this shot, but there are also rules for not for the roe deer but mostly for the red deer, that this period you can only shoot with this and that many pointers.
Yes. Yeah. So there are rules for the stags, which type you can shoot.
Yes.
And actually also for the fallow deer.
Yeah.
Depending on how big they are. So there are rules where you can specific timings where you're allowed to shoot them, and
that's national rules.
Yes.
And
a lot of other timings where you cannot shoot them. So those applies for everyone.
Right. Oh, very good. So yeah, a trip for a Chinese water deer and a Sika to the UK. Well, the Sika hunt, as it's known, is the ghost of the forest. Now, would that be a Sika down in the south of England, or are you going to travel up to the Highlands and go for a proper Scottish hard stalk?
Well, my buddy, he's in the middle of England, so it's going to be probably down from the middle and south.
Right.
But I would never say no to a good stalk in the Scottish Highlands.
That's the place that tests everybody. It's you stalk up here and everybody thinks they're fit, but then all of a sudden we drag you up the side of a hillside and you're huffing and puffing at the top.
It's different terrain.
Yeah.
And it would be the same as like Africa. It's lots of walking, and it's probably the heat more than anything down there that's the killer.
And I think one of the fun things that we always talk about is that was on the second day, we stalked him again and we walked a lot. And Freya, she was just whipping us. We need to go. We need to go. We need to go. And then we went back to the lodge for lunch. And then the two stalkers, they said, "Hey, maybe you should go in and take a nap." And Freya, she was like, "No, we need to go. We need to go." And they were like, "Okay, we need to take a nap."
You've burnt your PHs out.
Yeah, and we carried our own weapons and our backpacks. They had nothing except the walking sticks and the binders. We carried everything ourselves, but we were so high on adrenaline.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to go. And they were like, "Nah, we need to take a small nap."
Very obviously not used to having guests that were so enthusiastic. Most people probably just were like, "Oh yeah, we'll just do the morning and then we'll go back to the pool and the bar and chill out for the rest of the day."
No,
fantastic.
We liked the stalks.
We like the stalks.
Yes, and being out in the nature.
Working for it.
Yes.
I think that's the whole thing. If you're happy to work for it, it's what it's all about. It's very easy to go out, as you said earlier on, and pull the trigger. It's such a clinical process, but actually having to work and do everything, it's so much more satisfying.
And we can see it with the Pulsar brand using thermals. So in Denmark, we're not allowed to use thermal scopes on the rifles.
Okay.
We can use thermal spotters, but not during the hunt.
Okay.
So there cannot be any weapons around you when you use a thermal. You're not allowed to do that. But just walking out on a hunting ground and just sitting there and using a thermal to look, it's crazy how many animals you see.
Yes.
Because now you see them before they see you. And you're just sitting there looking at them, and they can get really close compared to when you're hunting, because now you're the one that's moving, or you come in the morning, but they still have the upper hand, because it's like a lot of the times I've been hunting on my hunting ground. So I had the national forest really close by, and then I had a really big open field, and then I was just sitting there scanning, and then suddenly in the middle of the field there was an animal. I was like, how the bleep did that get out there without me seeing it? And that is like, I'm getting the goosebumps now. I'm like, how can this happen? Because I just looked there and there was nothing. Now there's a stack there. And I think that's one of the really exciting things about the hunting, that anything can happen.
100%.
And as soon as you think, now I figured it out, they do something else. They do something. It's like, what's happening now?
So I stalk a lot of clear fell, and it's got lots of ditches and drainage tracks through it. And you can be watching a row, and it's over on your right hand side, and it's there, and you see it, and it drops down, but at that point you don't know where it's going to pop back up again, and it could be 400 or 500 meters over on your left, and it's just like, oh well, there it is, that's well out of range now, kind of thing. But it's that whole challenge that at any point in front of me a deer could just pop up, and it's the same as you say with a stag. These massive things traveling through forestry, they can travel almost silently, and they just pop out in front of you, and you're just like, but I didn't hear that coming. And you were talking about the seeker hunt. I remember sitting in Ireland and things like that, and these things that have got antlers on their heads charging through the forestry as quiet as anything, and they just appear, and you're just like, how? I can't walk through the trees quietly. It's like, but they can.
Yes. Yeah.
And they will sometimes just stand there and just watch you. Right?
Well, that's where the thermal suddenly has changed the whole. I think it's changed the whole way of hunting, because all of a sudden, yes, they stand 3 trees back and are watching you, but now we have that ability to look into the trees, which we can't do without it, and that technology changes it. Now, how do you feel about that? Obviously, Denmark, you just said that it's not allowed to be used during the hunt. What's your opinion of it? Because a lot more people now are starting to take a thermal spotter out with them, and almost losing the old traditional fieldcraft method of using a pair of binoculars.
Well, it depends on what kind of hunt it is. Like if we are low on meat, I would love to be able to use thermals.
Yep.
Because everything we shoot, we eat.
So
I would love to do that. on the other hand, when the freezer is full, and it's wrong to say I'm doing recreational hunting, but when I'm just out there, just to enjoy it, then I would never use a thermal, even if it was allowed, because now I'm out enjoying the nature. And if something comes by and I think that could be extra meat on the table, of course I'll shoot it. But that's not why I'm doing it at that point. So it's like depending on what you're doing, and also if you're culling or something, thermals could be phenomenal because they can help you so much.
Yes.
I would say that if we are just sitting out there on our hunting ground and it's freezing cold and you're just sitting there and you could sit there for 6 hours without seeing anything, sometimes it would be nice to just scan and see, is there anything here?
Yeah.
Then you can put it aside again. But sitting there for 6 hours without seeing anything can be a long time.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's
it's different.
Yeah, I think that's where probably somebody like myself, I don't like sitting in a box or sitting in a high seat. I will walk and stalk continuously and maybe cover miles. But the thermal has its place. If you're out there, exactly as you say, to do a culling job, it's a game changer, because all of a sudden, there's deer over there, which you may have bumped or moved on if you didn't have a thermal.
Yeah, and there's also a safety issue in it, because you might not, especially if you know your hunting grounds and so on, so you know where you can shoot and not shoot due to ricochets and so on. But there could be people that you don't see, walking in the forest or something, or a dog or something coming. But with thermals, you'll be able to identify it right away. And I'm like, I don't understand why it's well. I think I do understand why it's illegal in Denmark, but I don't recognize it should be illegal for those reasons, because it could help you so much.
But is there no plans to change the Danish law at all for pest control and things like that?
The rumor mill is saying that there will come a change.
Okay.
It was like with the silencers, in the good old days they were not allowed because it was an assassin's thing, and now suddenly everybody's using silencers, because now that you don't even need to have a license, you just need to have a weapon that can use the silencer, so you can go in and buy it.
Is that because half of the old hunting syndicates are now all sitting in the corner shouting, "What did you say?" Because I can't hear you, because obviously full bore rifle with no moderator, everybody's deaf.
Yes.
Nah, you don't. Don't need those.
No.
You don't need those. A real hunter can take that.
The recoil.
But why should we?
Yes.
Why should we?
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the change. Obviously, talking to, I think, Germany, you're not allowed to have rifle scopes, but you can have add-ons. But obviously, Denmark's completely nothing to do, no thermals.
Only if you're hunting what do you call them? So we have two animals where you're allowed to use a thermal spotter,
Okay.
but not a thermal scope.
Badgers?
Raccoon dogs.
The one is the raccoon dog.
Yeah.
And the other one is, because we don't hunt them, so it's like, I can't remember the other one. But there is allowed to use a thermal spotter, but not a thermal rifle scope.
Okay.
But you can use infrared rifle scopes.
Right. Okay.
So because you normally hunt them during nighttime.
It's another thing, isn't it? That and there's legislation in place, and it just goes to show that every country has a slightly different way of looking at the technology that's out there. But again, a lot of Europe didn't allow sound moderators, but they're suddenly coming around to actually maybe we don't want deaf people and deaf hunters, so we'll let you have a sound moderator, because it's not actually going to make you a James Bond in the woods where it goes. No. It still makes a noise and people can hear it, but they've kind of said, we'll let those go now.
And I actually think the sound moderator is actually helping you, because it's also you're being able to better control the recoil. Yes. And you can quickly do a follow-up shot, because there's not that much, there's not a big explosion right in front of your nose. So there's so many good things about it. So I'm like, why didn't they allow it, years ago?
I suppose it's just tradition and the way that the law looks at it. sound moderators and things like that, everybody thought that, yeah, it's misunderstanding. It's the same with the technology of thermal, night vision, all of that. There's always going to be somebody that will abuse the system, but it has its place.
Yes,
It does.
and it's like especially with thermals, nobody forces you to use it when you're hunting.
No.
You know, you have a free choice. If you want to use it, do it by all means. If you don't want to use it for hunting, don't do it. So it's like, but for us also, when we're walking down here in the nature, we always have a thermal with us, because you're just able to spot so many animals in the wild. Also back in Denmark, when we are on vacation there, you know, I always bring my thermal binoculars to look for animals, because it's just so easy to see them. And then, you know, you can use your normal binoculars, or you see them with eyeball Mark 1, but it just makes everything so easy.
No, absolutely. And I think it's interesting how different people will see it. The UK, there's been a massive uptake in thermal. Everybody shoves a thermal or a night vision scope on something now and thinks they can go out and hunt in complete darkness and all the rest of it, to the point where it's actually, I've always said, potentially we need a bit more training on how this works, because identification and target acquisition with a thermal is something that's quite difficult if you're not
Yes.
used to it.
Yes, and we can see that in now I might step on a couple of landmines here, but we can see that on Danish hunters in Sweden,
Okay.
because they, you know, we're talking, they're shooting horses, pigs, you know, like, how can you do that? Well, it looked like it looked like a wild boar in the thermal, or in the infrared. Yes, but horse, you know,
Yeah. Again though, it's at a distance and at the right distance. There's been talks and cases and things like that where dogs have been mistaken for foxes, etc., etc. And it goes down to knowing your equipment, and probably half the stories will never come out, but there's probably been a lot of things shot by mistake that should never have been shot. But it just goes to say is that as technology is racing on rapidly, and the equipment out there is getting better and better. But when thermal first hit the market, as we'll have all known, it was fairly grainy, and you kind of got this hot dot kind of to look at.
Yeah, and what I especially like with a lot of the products from Pulsar is that they have a built-in rangefinder. So if you're in doubt, you shoot the distance and say, so, woo, it's on 300 meters. So it cannot be a wild boar. It must be something else that is bigger, because it looks big, you know. And also, like, not only for training that you need to know your equipment, but you also need to know the behavior of the animals.
Yes. Yeah.
So because it's like a cow or a horse is behaving differently than a wild boar, even during nighttime. But the problem is you cannot see it. You cannot you cannot see it with your own eyes. You have to use electronics to see it. So of course you trick your brain into something. And also as a soldier, I tried it a lot of times, being out on patrols in the night. You trick your brain to see something that is not there.
But the rangefinder technology is only recent, because before that, unless you knew your hunting ground incredibly well and you knew exactly what was what, that tree stump over there is, or you range it during the day is 150 meters away. When you put a thermal up, or even a night vision, this conversation came up just the other day. I know guys that struggle massively because thermal kind of doesn't, or even an infrared based night vision doesn't give you any feedback, because your brain only sees what's in the picture about distances. So all of a sudden that thing could be, oh, it was only 50 meters. Well, actually it was 150 meters away, kind of thing.
Especially because it's a 2D image you look at.
Yes.
Compared to when you look at in daytime, that's 3D, you know, and you can you know, compare stuff to each other. So you, and especially if you know your hunting grounds, you know all the distances.
But luckily now, with obviously the rangefinders built in, it is making a big difference, and hopefully it will help people a lot more, and there'll be less misidentification of things.
Yeah, hopefully, yes.
No problem. So I think we've covered everything there. Unless there's anything else, well, I think we're good.
Yeah. I don't feel like there's nothing that I or that there's something that I should have said.
Maybe Fred could tell me what I miss.
No, I think we're good. I think you've worked very well as this hunting couple that that have backed each other up.
Yeah. Well, and it's fun since we met each other for this more than 20 years ago. We also did scuba diving together. So
Right.
and again, it was like we were down there together holding hands, but we saw different things. When we came up, we were like, "Did you see this?" No, I didn't see it. You know, and it was like it was so crazy. And I think that's also why we started hunting together, because we know even if we're sitting beside each other, you know, it's like we see different things. You know,
Fantastic.
and it is so amazing when we're out. And we're having good fun. That's the most important thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. It's something for all those people that are listening, that their partner's showing an interest, work with it, and hopefully they'll have as much fun out in the field as you two.
Yeah, for sure they will.
Yeah. More couples should go out hunt together, because it's really a good place to be out there in the outdoors, spending time together and making good memories.
Yeah.
And bringing food to the table.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And,
Thanks again for listening. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate that you get to the end of the show. If you have made it this far, please go and leave us a review. One of those 5 stars would be fantastic. Share this podcast with people you know. Let's get the word out there. Hopefully you've learned something new again about the Danish this time, and Italian firearms and hunting laws. It's always interesting to find out how different parts of the world do it. If you're listening from somewhere else in the world and I haven't covered that topic, and you would like to come on and tell us all about your firearms and hunting laws, then please get in touch. Drop us a message, drop us an email. It's all available. Just search the outdoorgibbon.co.uk or .com, and you can find out more there. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.